we go. And every once in a while, I think it beeps. Don't worry, that's just a sort of security measure so that everybody knows that this is being recorded. All right, so Brian, first of all, thank you so much for your time. It's a privilege. I know everybody's extremely busy, and especially people sort of working business like yourself, and so it's for us it's a privilege to have this opportunity to talk with you. Can you tell us a little bit about sort of yourself, kind of what do you do, in terms of your role, maybe even the team that you're involved with, just a little bit, in a nutshell, kind of our business-wise.
Cool. I work for Rio Tinto. I work with them for almost 10 years. Currently work at one of the Pilbara iron ore ports. So it's called Parker Port, based in Dampier, Western Australia. My current role, so I've just recently moved roles November last year, and I've moved into the Parker Point maintenance superintendent. So my accountabilities are maintenance for the Parker Point port, and that includes we've got basically 100 million tonne iron ore port, two train dumpers take load from the Pilbara mine sites, a blending yard with 17s and 2 ship loaders. In terms of team, I've got, there's 86 of it all up. So ranging from 24-hour continuous shift maintainers, electrical, mechanical maintainers, 4 shift supervisors. I've got a day shift crew that do condition monitoring and asset health style activities, a couple of engineers, and also some shutdown coordination, and that's probably about us, I think. So responsible for basically reliability and availability of the assets, work through both planned maintenance as well as a breakdown recovery situations with the team. Does that give you enough context?
Yeah, that definitely. I don't know if I could sort of intelligibly describe all of that, but anyway, it sounds, it's hardcore. Look, talking about this program that you participated in, can you tell us a little bit, macro sort of level? How did you get sort of recruited into it, and what exactly was it, if you were to describe it?
So the one I participated in was DFL. It's a Developing Future Leaders. Rio Tinto run course. I think it looks at superintendent and manager band levels within the organisation. Completed it in 2015. There's, I think, 35 participants from around the world. My understanding, it sort of happens behind the scenes, but selection for the programs by recommendation through the general manager levels in the organisation. There's a set number of attendees per business group. So it includes copper and coal, all of the business groups in Rio Tinto. I guess that's how I got onto it. Summary of it, so it covers a range of leadership development. I think it's actually one of a suite of programs. So there's some frontline leadership programs for supervisor levels, so superintendent manager one, and there's some executive programs also that fit in the suite. Ran over a period of 6 months, so started with online modules as well as monthly. I think there was 4 different phone conference dial-ins with different members of the organisation presenting on different topics, and I guess covered the aspects of the business, so health and safety, people and development, management change, and also financials. It culminated with included a project, development project to utilise skills. We also had groups, so for all learning groups, we called them, for different people on the course, and finished up with a week-long residential course where we all got together to work through some more intensive modules.
So sounds fantastic. So this is a perfect environment for us to sort of get your thoughts on some of these components. So maybe we do that sequentially. Just to summarize, so 6 months was the overall duration. Started online. These phone conferences monthly, buddy groups to sort of support the project to conclude, and then a week-long face-to-face, right? That's those are the comments. So tell us a little bit about sort of the first initial impact and go back kind of in time. You're nominated or you're recommended for this program, developing future leaders. You kind of, as to get the detail of it, and what do you think? And I'm thinking specifically in terms of learning and the way it's going to unfold relative to your preferences. What was the reaction? Did you have any reaction? Can you recall that moment?
Yeah, I had a bit of understanding about what the program was like because there was 2 of my peers had completed it the previous year. I guess I had some inside knowledge. My original thoughts on it, quite a broad spectrum of learning. There was the original pack that we got did detail out the 5 or 6 months of a program and showed the different learning modules and learning types. So broad, well put together. And feedback I'd had also was that quite challenging, but also a program that you could, the level that you got out of it was about around the level of intention you put into work. So I was conscious of that. And although it covered a lot of information, the time frame seemed to be something that had a bit of flexibility and was manageable to do alongside a full-time job.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty excited. Great opportunity, yeah.
And then when you looked at, so one thing I just want to unpackage a little bit the word sort of broad in the sense of the let's say themes or topics, or broad in kind of it's a long program with a lot of stuff. And what's broad?
I thought it was in a range of topics. So covering everything from health and safety through to the financial balance sheet of an organisation to 360s on yourself as a person, 360s and EU testing, and so very varied topics. I probably didn't. So now, having done the course, what I probably didn't appreciate then was the way in which they all built upon one another. So I guess quite a varied number of topics, but all very complementary.
The second thing you said there was it was well put together. So you saw kind of these elements, right, that you very nicely and clearly outlined for us, the online, the weekly calls, whatnot. What think that it was well put together? What and with respect to some of those elements, did you have any in terms of I don't know, either doubt that it was gonna work out or maybe enthusiasm, for a particular of the program or methodology versus another one?
I think the reason I think it was well thought through was probably around so that different topics were covered in different ways. So, for example, health and safety was done with a call through one of the senior health and safety leaders in the business, whereas mentoring fundamentals was done as an e-learning. I guess I sort of felt that the style of delivery probably, and this perspective as well, but does the content. So financials was done as an online course, whereas financials done in a classroom probably would have different, but probably suited quite well, sort of a bit more self-paced, because there was quite a variety of skill sets and backgrounds within the course. So I guess the key messaging, or where there were leadership or leadership or more conversational items were targeted at a WebEx where you'd have that one-on-one, whereas the pure learning, more technical items were utilised the self-paced WebEx online style learning.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that's interesting. So let's probably, I don't know, from I don't want to say more sophisticated than most, but I think that kind of reflection in terms of what's better suited in one context as opposed to another is interesting, and definitely the right way, I think, to think about it. So, in terms of the other comment that you made, putting it, sort of doing it alongside your job, you said the time frame was flexible. It seemed to me like it was doable alongside my job. Ways, how did that pan out in terms of, in the context of your work, finding time for participating in online events, and vice versa, or cutting a week out and go somewhere? I mean, how did that pan out?
I think for the most part fairly good. I know talking learning group, we would talk with different participants around progress, and depending on the project that we'd chosen. So the project, one of the aims of the project was to the skills we're working on. Oh, sorry, I did just realise I forgot to mention there's also a mentoring process through the program. But yeah, one of the things I did notice, so it depended on the project that you'd chosen, and I think I had previous experience doing Greenbelt style projects. For those who chose projects that were not related to their duties or something that they would see on a daily or weekly basis, did struggle for progress, whereas I'd chosen something that was very much in my sphere of influence and very much within my daily job. It was definitely a stretch, but something I had on in my mind that I needed to do anywhere, and I could see it directly contributing to my role. So being able to use a project like that, I think, made that simpler. There was the financial module, like the online financial module was large. So finding the time to do that one was probably the one that I not struggled with, but had to work through the most. So breaking that over a weekend and just spending some time to get it done. I guess some of the important messaging pieces that it's a Rio program. I guess there was an intent to really engage people in the business messaging. So by doing that, a phone call and a WebEx stuff, and I think that made sure that you didn't miss that messaging, because we made the effort knowing that there were senior leaders of the business that would call into those ones. So I found it for this part quite manageable with my schedule. The selection, I think, made a big difference.
Okay, great. And Lisa, jump in if you want to ask anything. So I want to spend just a few minutes with you, Brian, talking about the elements that you laid out that composed the program in a little bit more depth. If there is sort of any for reflection or insight or beliefs that you can share with us. So starting with the online modules, right? The online modules, I guess, were sort of sprinkled. You referred back to the finance one quite a few times. The modules, what was your knowledge of kind of online learning today going in? What did you experience when you went through it, and was your initial belief and then experience, was there any gap in that in terms of more positive, less positive as a way of learning?
So I've experienced prior to starting the program, there's probably at more than 50% now, or easily more than 50%, headquarters of the training that I've done within Rio Tinto, and mostly safety programs being done via online learning modules. So definitely I've been familiar with it. my experience with it was that they were quite good for more information rather than vision or context delivery. So quite good for just the information of good for information, and I think they were well suited for where there was a variety of different experiences with the pick. So the finance one, I wasn't as aware of it, whereas there were some people who were finance every day of the week, so that was a good medium to different levels on some of the mentoring ones, our people on the course, as well as some finance people, so HR familiar, finance not so much. I'm familiar with them. Some of them were prepared by different groups, so they weren't cookie cutters. They weren't all completely consistent, but all of the messaging I think was quite useful and easy to understand. Answer all the questions.
Yeah. Was it mostly sort of read and kind of quiz, or was it video based, or what kind of?
Bit of both. So, for example, the mixture of both. So, mostly normal general start with some information, have a video or a scenario, and then confirm through questioning.
Can I just I just want to butt in here. So how many modules were there, and do you know roughly how much time the intention was to spend on them?
I'll have to remember. I should have put my course. I probably got it. There was a mentoring and mentee one. There's one. So that was around about hours worth of work. Finance was quite long, so it was around about 10 hours in the finance one. So that's nice for those of us who covered a very broad amount of information. And I think, to be honest, doing it in a classroom would have been quite taxing. It was a good method to do it. That's learning on the corpus of HSE and also on some of the people management base. So both of those are around about half an hour.
Okay.
An hour. Yeah.
Cool. The second. Sorry.
I just want one more supplementary question to this. So each of them were self-paced. You didn't necessarily interact with anyone else.
Yes, with those ones they were. Yeah, okay. Self-paced.
Okay. Thanks.
Did you have to demonstrate sort of the modules, or it just kind of used it and that was it?
Completion, it showed. Completion, it showed in our learning management system. It showed that it had been completed. I don't think we were asked to demonstrate skills, but in our residential part of the course, we definitely reinforced them. Sure. So it wasn't there wasn't an exam per se, but we did a business simulation, which for a lot of the finance and some of the strategy work that was passed on earlier through the course reinforced in the business simulation, so we could utilise the skills that we learned. One of the things, I guess, the e-learnings and some of the phone calls we used to do was cover some of the business topics that weren't then devoted to in the residential period. So sort of focus more on personal and reinforcing some of the leadership behaviours and business simulation and strategy sections. We didn't spend a day talking about health and safety when we were in the residential. Used as an opportunity to cover things that were business important, but there wasn't going to be as much gain from getting the group together to talk about them.
Right. So the second element that you referred to was the phone conference, is the sort of monthly conversations with leaders. Can you tell us a little bit more in detail how did those happen? The effectiveness of those, the fitting those into your work life and so on.
So I think there was 5 if you include the first one. So there was an opening call on the program. So all of them went for an hour and a half. Opening call was an opportunity to, for all except the opening call, they were run twice a day, twice in a day, so to allow for the two different times for Northern Hemisphere, Southern Hemisphere, and also give you some option if you couldn't make one. The opening call was an opportunity to introduce the program, welcome people to it, to introduce the sort of learning that we would be doing and how to access it, talk about the residential and the requirements, talk about our project, and we also had a panel or a faculty, we call them, that there for support throughout. So gave the opportunity for those individuals to introduce themselves and their background, and we also heard from some previous attendees in terms of what they'd really taken out of the program and what was some of their advice for how we could get the most out of it. So that was the opening call. Next one was health and safety. So that was delivered by one of the health and safety global business lead. Consisted of basically a presentation to run through the different aspects, and then I think it was an hour and a half, so it was around an hour of presentation on the different topics. That was via WebEx, and then had questions that were posed, some during and at the end in terms of each areas. So yeah, interactive questioning at the end. There was one on, and same sort of format for finance. We all have the same sort of format for people and talent management, leading people and talent management. The final WebEx was around leading change, and this one was sort of slightly different. It was broken up into, we were asked to submit a question to the panel, and I think 4 different topics that they were grouped into, and basically we went through, and each of the participants would ask a question and one of the panel members would respond to it. So that was slightly different formatting.
What did you sort of like or dislike about this element of the program?
I liked, what I found interesting was you got context, and I think you got a bit more engagement and accessibility to some of the business leaders you wouldn't normally get to. Particularly the leading change one, very interesting. There was a great opportunity. There's a great opportunity through these aspects for the business leaders to share, I guess, experiences and pass those on. So that was really useful out of them. It's also engaging to be able to listen to people that you see on the org chart. Quite well run. Having them on time slots definitely made it more flexible and allowed everybody to participate. For me, it was a very positive experience because I'm an English speaker. We had probably 50% of the course were first language wasn't English, so quite a large number of French people. So I think when I did the Northern Hemisphere time slot for one of them, that it may have been a little bit more difficult to understand if you weren't a natural English speaker. And I certainly found their questioning more challenging to understand. So I think that's one of probably the things I could think of as I don't know how you get around it. But the whole course was presented in English, and they did exceptionally well to work through all the content that had made my head spinning.
Because the medium it was difficult, or I mean the WebEx.
I think some of the questioning with an accent, trying to understand the accent over the phone, which wasn't necessarily a great line, did make them more difficult. But one thing I noticed that was adapted was Craig also had typing questions, so people could either pre-submit questions or type in their question and allow it to be answered. And I think that probably got more use from the non-English speakers than the English speakers.
Is WebEx or something like WebEx commonplace in your business life, or in those of the 30 some participants that were on the course?
Certainly in mine it is. I'm not sure whether all the organisations use it as much, but it's increasingly common for us to communicate by that. So yeah, we're quite familiar with it.
And did you find it was in terms of just connecting with the leaders? I mean, if was there anything lost, or you said, well, it would have been nicer to have them in the residential kind of thing, or face to face? Were able to, was that a concern?
I think it was. having them all residential would be lovely. I think looking at the time and the accessibility of everybody, I think that it was a very suitable format to use it in. I think it was. I think it was definitely. I didn't feel that it wasn't engaging. I think that the way in which it was set up, so that there was questioning and pauses and some feedback, and also sharing of experiences, made it quite personal rather than just all business. So I think it was quite effective.
Did you guys use video and all that? You did? Okay.
Yeah. So we presented generally had video up. There's a few circumstances where we didn't, and those of us who had video were on video as well from WebEx. So at the presentation and the video of the presenters.
Mm-hmm. And there was a facilitator, I guess, sort of an HR, for helping the leader, or let's say working through it. Yeah.
Absolutely. There was one of the training managers who the program owner facilitated, and generally had an administrator to provide all the technical support that we needed. But they were very good. Like their WebEx skills are awesome, much better than ours when we tried to do our group presentation.
So, like, can you hear me? Can you, that kind of 5 minute of beeps and whatever? No.
There was a little bit of everybody needing to put their phone on mute, so that you didn't hear everybody's. That took a little bit of getting used to. It was always a bit humorous at the start, but Craig handled it really, really well.
Great. Elisa, I don't know if you have any question on that component. If not, we'll move on to the...
No, I think we should move on. Okay.
So the other component that you referred to is the buddy learning groups.
Yeah.
This is a sort of social, I guess, to some extent, component. How did that actually happen? Again, same type of thing. Was it effective? Why? Why not? What was your even expectation about that, and so on?
Yeah. I also think it's useful to how formal was it? Yeah. Sort of a bit, formal sort of get together.
In terms of formal, we had, as part of the program, we had the learnings had a you should complete them in this week. The WebEx's WebEx call-ins, they obviously is a very specific time, and they had a meeting invite and a specific time. They were actually all recorded, so if you, for some reason, were travelling and couldn't make it, you could attend that. The deadline dates, I guess, in terms of when each of our meetings, so we had one a month, and we had 5 team members in the 5 months leading up. So there was a deadline date, and there was also, something I forgot to mention, we received a learning journal, a reflective journal, to utilise throughout the program, and as part of that, it had a page for each of the events in terms of reflection, what I'm going to learn, and booked for each of our learning group meetings. There was a page in there around the suggested discussion as part of your learning group. So normally it would around reflecting on a previous learning, so either a WebEx or normally took the WebEx and any of the online learnings. So as a group reflection that the update in terms of project status, and then just some general discussion around how we were finding the program and progressing. The groups were, so I think groups of 5. They were arranged or laid out. So most of us didn't know any of the participants. So they were, we were placed into groups by the coordinator. The program tried to be good in terms of time frame, so that we were all one hemisphere, so we could make contact. Came from a variety of different groups, so I didn't have anybody else in the iron ore group. I had people from diamonds and minerals, exploration, coal and copper, and so broad experiences. Wasn't really sure what to expect. I think that they were really quite effective because once we got to the program, there's 35 people standing in the room, and it was nice to be able to say, I've been talking to you for the last 5 months. Hi, how are you? So I think it helped break the ice. Definitely made us comfortable. It was interesting to be able to reflect on our, what we'd taken out of the different learning medias. Each of the different aspects, so people had different perspectives, different backgrounds, and different history, so definitely different learnings. Part of the project, I think they supported it was good support because we got, having troubles in an area or we weren't progressing very well with our project. It was both a bit of an accountability check to see how we were going, but also had that opportunity to get some advice or alternate points of view, alternate ways of progressing from that group. I think it all just was a good let to check on what others were learning out of the process. And I think in reflecting on what we were learning, it probably cemented and opened our eyes to some different, definitely opened my eyes on more than one occasion to different areas. I probably had learnt stuff that I hadn't recognised. I found them quite effective. It was all just the fostering.
I forgot, so did these happen on a WebEx call as well, or some kind of thing like that?
Yeah, we'd just do a WebEx call and all call in, so book a meeting.
So I got to ask earlier, just very, very, very simple question. Was there kind of training or something provided with regards to use of the technology, in this case WebEx?
No, there wasn't.
No. Okay.
I think we're fairly familiar with it. There is stuff on the Rio internet that we could utilise if we needed to, but no.
Okay.
I didn't use it if there was.
Okay. So when you got on the call, was there any facilitation, even in the first one maybe only, or just that learning journal and you kind of got there and somebody took charge? So
we were asked as part of our first phone call, a group phone call, to nominate a leader for each of the phone calls. I can't actually remember how we decided to have the first one, to be honest.
Okay.
Might have been just that we all knew it had to happen by that date, so somebody put a meeting invite out. I think that might have been the case. But Craig, who was the facilitator, actually touched base individually with a WebEx call from each of us, each of the participants, just to get to know us and make sure that we knew that we could contact him and see what we were expecting to get out of the program. So I think that was a bit of an intro to us to organise our first WebEx. Also, I keep remembering the weekly update email that came out from the course coordinator to tell us what we should have completed in that previous week and what was outstanding, as a bit of a reminder.
Okay, so one person would lead the call and sort of make sure you worked through these 3 points of reflection, update on products, and just general what's everybody feeling.
Yeah, could have. There wasn't any management external of our learning group of that. That was just us doing that.
No. Is there any sort of note-taking or recording or any of that in terms of documentation of what that? Did everybody just do that themselves if they wanted to?
Everybody did that themselves if they wanted to, and I think we're encouraged to utilise our learning journals to fill out the space provided in our learning journal. But there wasn't. We didn't have to hand them in or anything like that. It was just a personal thing.
So the journal is literally like a kind of Moleskine thing.
The journal was a PDF that was sent out that was formatted for each of the activities and had questions or reflections relevant to each of the activities in the cover.
Mm-hmm.
Covered from the first call. So there's like prep for first call, prep for meeting with manager. And the manager one would have what were your expectations of program. What do you think you would get? So that was provided just after, as part of the pack, just after our first call, and opportunity for us was to print it out and utilise it as the journal through the program, which is what I did. So I found that quite useful.
Awesome. Well, so moving then maybe to the project work. This element, sort of a project work, I guess, was overlaid kind of from the start to the program, or was there a particular moment in the program when it kind of started? And essentially, was an individual project?
Yeah, individual project. Something worked out with your site manager in terms of something that was suitable. There was an email and scope document that was sent out to both myself and my manager around, what a suitable project would be. Largely self-managed, so there wasn't any. It was basically between myself and my manager, rather than anybody within the course to check up on on physics of it, and one of the so I guess that's what it was. We did a presentation in terms of delivery just prior to the residential course. I think it had previously been done in the residential, but it just took up too much time. It's alternate things to cover, so we did that prior as our learning groups prior to our prior to the residential course.
In your buddy groups.
Yeah, buddy groups.
Okay, so the let's say the ownership and accountability for the project was really just you to yourself, manager, and then the buddy groups.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so it was really a kind of as you said, self-managed but self-driven and sort of your own responsibility in a way, and kind of your own mechanism to apply some of the learning, right?
Yes. Sorry, the other person that was involved was as I said, I forgot, and she was assigned a mentor. So one of the mentor was also involved in discussion around how we were progressing with our project, probably from what we were learning rather than the physical outcome, because they weren't people who were familiar with our job or we'd even met prior. So they were more around the discussion I had with my mentor was more, was I learning out of it? How was it reinforcing the content?
Right. So did you find there was a sort of, as you said, a scoping document and then a kind of recommended timeline and deliverable kind of guidelines, throughout.
Yes.
And did you find it was effective at helping translate that learning, or was it just a sort of thing on the side that got you thinking, but not necessarily linked to what was going on in the program?
I think it depended on your project. The project I ended up choosing was very within my day-to-day, but in reflection, enough of a stretch.
Okay.
So it was something I worked on. It probably didn't reinforce the content as much because it was already skills that I possessed, and it was around projects. It wasn't a particularly good one. It seemed a good one at the start, and then halfway in, it didn't seem like it was a very good one. And there were a few other people, like there's one other guy in my learning group that had the same situation, is that, what he thought was going to be a significant project, it ended up not being quite as complicated and not as great as it could have been.
And the reason being, in hindsight, was it the scoping document wasn't good enough? You didn't kind of pay attention at the time? Some mix of things?
Probably wasn't anything down to the document. I think probably the reason that it wasn't a great project was at the time I was selecting one, there was a large amount of change going on in the organisation, and the projects that I'd identified, but just the time frame, it didn't appear to me at that stage that I'd be able to engage the right people, get people into the mindset to be able to think about improvement work. So I think it was more around the happening in the organisation at the time. For me, I guess I probably think that some of the less technical ones and more people-orientated projects would have been more suitable from my perspective, but not everybody. I think the reason it was quite broad was that works for me, the organisation, the role that I'm in. But if you're a finance person who doesn't have direct reports to something that's like organisational change, probably not going to be as appropriate, or they're not going to have the opportunity. So I think it was left broad to try and allow it to be fairly broad.
And the mentor, in terms of the project and just generally, how was that? Was that also a sort of periodic phone call, or how was that? How did that element work?
Yep. Periodic phone call. Again, it was a recommendation in the schedule. You should talk to your mentor, and there was a in the learning journal that talked about, these are some of the things you might want to talk to your mentor about. In general, so mentors were MD level or above, so I don't know what that is, 3 positions above us within the organisation. And I think primary was around looking at learning and development opportunities much more so than technical. It wasn't focused on technical. They were allocated through the program, and from my perspective, I'd never met the person that I had as a mentor. To go, I think it was quite useful. I think probably focused on development and career aspect of it, and I've certainly found my mentor to be quite good in those aspects of it. So quite good. More so than the day-to-day progress on a project. That was, I think, the progress updates sort of happened more at the manager level.
Mm-hmm. And just to go first full circle before wrapping up with a few questions on the overall impact. The week-long residential program that was sort of there at the end. If you were to, obviously we're not going to go through the detail of what was done there. That's not necessary. But if you were to summarize your sense for, how is that different? From a learning point of view, what was why was there a week-long residential component at the end of this program? What was the usefulness of that? How would you put that in words?
The items that were delivered prior had been a lot of knowledge and information, and I think that the items that were delivered through the residential course they were almost a lot more soft skill style items. So they weren't teaching us how to be leaders, but we would do, for example, there's a lot of personal, like 360, MBTI, EQI, sort of. It was the initial piece. I think it was really effective in the residential because having quite a broad range of people who had similar sort of experiences up until that point allowed us to, I guess, reflect and share experiences and learn from one another as well. The types of topics we shared there were also things where there was a lot of opportunity for comparison and differences from different cultures and also different parts of the organisation, also to share basically different ways in which things were done. So I think that there was more opportunity because of the topics that were selected at residential, and I think that really reinforced opportunity. If we talked about finance, we probably all do it the same, whereas when we talked about strategy for different business groups, it had an opportunity to get a bit more discussion.
So when you think of this whole thing, we have a few minutes left. I don't want to go over time, and so when you think of this fairly complex experience, it has a lot of moving parts. Just maybe a few kind of quick impressions. First of all, how on earth did you your keep your grasp on what needed to be done when? From a simply kind of communication and awareness of what to do this week point of view. How did you get control of that?
So calendar reminds for all the phone calls and WebExes. I did something as simple as printed off we were given a calendar sheet which laid it out each week, so months and then each of the weeks. So I kept that simply as printed off and ticked off as I was doing them. Also, the weekly reminder emails about what we should have done or what we were lagging behind on was handy as a bit of a reminder and a bit of a kick if I was running behind on something.
Did you find yourself sort of work into the process never, often, specifically with the part obviously that didn't happen face to face? How many times did you have to just say, "Oh, well, can't do this right now," or "Can't participate in this call"?
All of the calls I was able to make, and I think for the majority of the group, most people were. There was the odd person travelling. So the e-learnings, definitely I suited them more around my schedule than probably the specific date that it was on the course. So that was probably where I found the flexibility. But it was good, I guess, having some flexibility in a part to be able to match whatever was going on at the time.
Mm-hmm. And when you think of all the things that you did, right? So many things. This is a very rich experience. It's actually quite incredible. what would you rank kind of the number one thing in terms of relevance, applicability? What did you think, really impressed you as an element in terms of learning and really fit with your way of doing things, and what not so much? What was more of a, a struggle for you, and I don't know if I really got much out of that, and it's not really what I like to learn.
I would, and I think all the parts are quite good.
Yeah, you're very positive on everything.
Yeah. The presidential group was amazing. Because it was not only, I think, were you learning at the time, but you were reinforcing it through conversation with people, and also were relationships as well. Sort of, I think that makes me learning people in different circumstances, being in a different environment, sort of helps to cement some of those things that I learned about, I think. So that was, it would still have been a really good course if that hadn't been there, but I think that made it very, very good. Mm-hmm. The next thing was the loop would be my from top to bottom learning. The next thing was definitely my mentor. I think that was very, very useful, probably more so in terms of a mentor relationship than a learning relationship, I think. Mm-hmm. The WebExes were very good for information. That would be my next one. And probably for me, the bottom one would be the project of this course, not because I don't enjoy learning through that way. I think it's really useful. I just think I didn't choose the right project, so it didn't reinforce what I was trying to learn. That's why I'd rank it down the bottom.
And in terms of the flow of these things, we didn't talk much about that, but what sense? Was it okay starting kind of online and finishing face-to-face? You said it was nice, to say, hey, I've been talking to you for 5 months, but was it difficult to get the momentum going because of that start online?
I think the start off phone call was quite good, so that really set the scene and got everybody together in an online sort of over the phone sense. What was good was it wasn't just all e-learnings, and then there was a distribution of them across the time, so you sort of used all the different styles. And to be honest, it took us a little while to all work out what we were learning, so probably if it was slow to begin with, it got easier. So by the time we got to London, it gave an opportunity to be really interested in understanding what we were doing. Yeah.
Great. I don't have any more things. We've really taken you through the ringer. I feel so bad. But Lisa, do you have any final question? We have just a couple minutes here. Anything you want to ask?
Not.
Do you have anything that you want to ask?
No, I think you've kind of ticked everything sufficiently. Having said that, Bronnie, there's always things that we then think, oh, we wish we'd have asked X. Just so
you've got anything, just flick an email.
Yeah, that would be great.
Anything, Bryony, anything you would have done differently if you were designing this program? The project, okay, that might be, but anything else that you would have just done differently?
I thought I could. Like I said, the only thing I could think of for some of the participants might have been delivering it in English only. I think for some people it would have been a bit more difficult. I think one other good thing, I guess, during the residential was there was a mix of internal and external people presenting, so it wasn't all Rio Tinto. It sort of reinforced. It was quite good to get some different points of view, which I think made the content seem a little bit more genuine. No, not really. I mean, I think probably one thing I think happened to improve it would probably have been to have maybe a phone call with all of our managers. I think for participants, we'd spent a lot of time and worked on it. I think probably didn't spend a lot of time talking to my manager about where I was up to. Maybe that would have helped to, be more accountable on some things, or to make sure that they were understanding what we were getting out of it and testing those skills, or giving feedback on how it was going. So that's probably the one thing that at least some email comms that went out, but maybe a phone call with between Craig and the coordinator and my manager might have helped. still available there too.
Yeah. Great. Well, look, it's 10:45 over here, and it's a lot later over where you are. So we're going to let you go. And again, thank you so much for your time, your generosity, your honesty, your amazing, clarity in recounting all this, which was fantastic. I mean, if you ever want to quit your job and get a job in learning, I think definitely you'll be able to help in that space, because you have very clear ideas and about that, and that was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. If there's anything you do think of, just feel free to flick me a note.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.
Bye.